Hello everyone and welcome to this short presentation about the Leamington and Warwick Tramway, both horse-drawn and electric. Until the invention of steam engines, the only effective way of moving loads on land was by horsepower. But horses had to be fed, need to rest, and could be used to power only the most simple machinery. The number of working horses in Britain peaked in 1902 at 3.5 million. This number of horses needed 15 million acres of land to supply their food, an area nearly 3 times the size of Wales. 3.5 million horses also produce 10 million tonnes of manure a year, which is roughly the same weight as 2 million African elephants. In the towns and cities, horses were used for moving and delivering almost everything, and this continued well into the 1920s. The first type of tram was a horse tram. They were more efficient than wagons and horse buses because they ran on smooth iron rails. Even so, a horse tram carrying a lot of people is very heavy. For this reason, horse trams were made to be as light as possible to reduce the weight the horse had to pull. Because horses had to be rested and fed, other horses had to be ready to take over. Sometimes extra horses were needed to help pull a tram uphill. Every day, up to 8 horses could be used to pull each tram. By the early 1880s, the population of Leamington Spa had reached around 23,000, and that of Warwick 12,000. So it was felt an easy and cheap method of transport between the two towns was needed. In May 1881, a bid from local man John Fell of Leamington for the sum of £14,800 was accepted, and work on the Leamington and Warwick Tramway began in late June 1881. John Fell had built the town hall, but this was the first tramway he constructed. He obviously liked the work and later laid the Coventry and Bedworth Tramway and the Birmingham and Midland, plus others here and abroad. John Fell began work on the line at the end of June 1881, and by the end of July, 3,100 yards of track had been laid. This share certificate belonged to John Fell. The horse-drawn tramway was opened to the public on the 21st of November 1881. A couple of metropolitan tramcars started from the depot at Coton End, Warwick, and proceeded directly to the terminus at High Street, each drawn by 3 horses. It is said that the cars were gaily decked with flags and the horses with rosettes and ribbons. The trams were drawn up in front of the Warwick Arms Hotel, with the band of the 4th Battalion Royal Warwickshire Regiment in attendance. The trams attracted considerable attention, with many people lining the streets on the route. A horse tram is seen here at the Warwick terminus in High Street. Westgate is in the background. At any one time, a maximum of 8 trams would be on the line, with 2 horses pulling each tram. Additional puller or pull-up horses were used to assist the tram horses at the steeper gradients like the Parade or a canal bridge and Smith Street. This tram has an extra pull-up horse as it works its way around Eastgate, Warwick, around 1900. Premises at Coton End, previously used by maltster Mr. Woodward, were obtained for stabling and housing of the cars when they weren't being used. A contract for the conversion of the premises was given to Mr. Cottrell of Birmingham, and the tram company paid the Earl of Warwick, who owned the premises, £55 a year for the lease. On the day of the opening ceremony, a fine stud of 16 horses arrived. The contract for the leasing of the horses, cars and drivers having been obtained by Mr. C. Lane of Birmingham at a sum of £29 per week. For a short period prior to the stables opening, the horses were temporarily stabled with Mrs. Cook at the Woolpack Hotel in Warwick for 30 shillings a week. The leasing arrangements lasted until May 1883, when 45 horses were purchased by the company for a total cost of £1,406. Throughout most of its length, the tramrail was only single track with 7 passing loops. The trams were double-decked with open tops. The trams started at the terminus in Avenue Road, Leamington Spa, and ended in High Street, Warwick, near the Warwick Arms Hotel. The trams went via Avenue Road, Spencer Street, Parade, Warwick Street, Warwick Place, Milverton, Avon Bridge, Emscott, Coton End, St John's, Smith Street, Jury Street and High Street. As you can see, this is a horse tram outside All Saints Parish Church. This is horse tram number 1 at the Avenue Road terminus around 1903. The public library is in the background, and the tram driver is James Claridge. This is horse tram number 7 at Avenue Road in 1900. George Powell is the driver and Tommy Mumford the conductor. George lived at 28A the Saltisford and spent over 27 years working for the company, starting off in the stables. After spending some years there, he became a driver on one of the horse trams. When the horse trams were abandoned, he went into the engine room where he spent at least 8 years working on night duty. Clearly, the passing of the horse tram system was met with some sadness, as a remembrance card was published to mark the occasion. The heavy black border around the card was typical of memoriam cards of the day. And now we're going to look at the electric trams. The last horse tram ran on the 16th of May 1905, and electric trams with 12 cars commenced services on the 15th of July 1905. During the time in which the tramway was being built, a service between Leamington and Warwick was maintained by a 3-horse double-decker bus which travelled along the old Warwick Road. A number of 2-horse brakes ran on the usual route as conditions permitted. Early in 1900, Warwick Council signed a lease allowing an electric tramway, the agreement being for 28 years at £100 per year. Negotiations with Leamington Council were harder, but an agreement was eventually reached in February 1901. The electric tram system became operational in July 1905 amid great fears that the noise and sparks created would alarm the horses, which was still the main form of transport. The inspection of the track and cars was made by Colonel von Donop on behalf of the Board of Trade on Friday the 14th of July 1905, and the overhead construction by Mr. A.P. Trotter on the following day, after which the regular service was started. On the occasion of Colonel von Donop's inspection, 2 cars were used to carry the inspection party. On the first car were the inspector, the engineers, the officials of the Leamington and Warwick councils, and the local directors of the Tramway company, and on the second car, members of the Leamington and Warwick councils. The plan was to operate the service with a fleet of 12 trams. Electric cars 1 to 6 were purchased from the Brush Company in 1905. The other 6 were acquired from the Taunton and West Somerset Electric Railways and Tramway Company. The brush cars were identical open-top double-deckers with reversible wooden seats on the upper deck. The livery was dark green and cream. This is tram number 3 at Milverton railway station. The photo and a number of others is courtesy of the National Tramway Museum. And this tram is in Warwick Street and is about to turn into the parade. This is a lovely photo of a tram travelling down the parade with the Regent Hotel on the right. This looks like a very staged photo on the parade opposite the town hall in order to produce postcards for the launch of the service. There were so many postcards produced that included trams. And here's another one. I like this one as it mixes the old and the new transport. This circa 1915 postcard includes some soldiers, presumably before they go off to war. I wonder how many came back. Again, a mixture of the new and the old, this time crossing Victoria Bridge. And this is looking in the opposite direction. The Washington Hotel is on the right hand side. And then we get to the post office at Priory Terrace. Notice the railings around All Saints Parish Church. This is the ex-Taunton car number 8 leaving Avenue Road terminus in 1928. This photograph, taken in Avenue Road around 1910, looks like another one of those stage publicity shots. A bill for the abandonment of the tramway was prepared in 1928 and formed the Leamington and Warwick Traction Act of 1929. The closure itself came the following year. The tramway company then gave 1 month's notice of its intention to cease running on the 18th of July 1930. Tram number 14 made the last journey from Leamington to Warwick on Saturday the 16th of August 1930. Reg Craven Jones took the photo as it stood outside Epperson House at 11 Avenue Road. There was no outward signs of mourning at the passing of the old trams, and only 3 people took advantage of the opportunity of being on the last tram to run: Councillor Howard Jones and 2 local pressmen. The late Keith Bolton, a very competent modeller, chose the subject of the 1916 Eastgate electric tram accident as a project which took him some 10 years in the making. The surrounding buildings are stunning and have been meticulously constructed using contemporary photographs with particular reference to directories for the names of the traders and shop occupants. The model tram has been motorised to operate automatically up and down the street. The quality of modelling and the level of detail is outstanding and is something to be admired. Mrs. Bolton has since donated the model to the Warwick Information Centre, where it takes pride of place in the centre of the room. Having come to the end of this presentation, I would like to let you know that Peter Cools and myself published a comprehensive book with plenty of images on the subject. Details of how to obtain a copy can be found on the Leamington History Group website under Publications. We would like to acknowledge research by Anthony Cools and Covington local historian Paul Howell. Both researched the tramway as part of their separate history degrees, and we are grateful that we were allowed to use their research as the basis for our book.